Welcome to the Digital Lifestyle Show, show 761. Coming up this week, Garry and Richard are here, and we've got lots to talk about. We'll be talking about our new gaming wheel, which I know we don't normally talk about gaming, but VR gaming with Project Cars 2 and the new wheel I've got for that. And there's a new VR headset, for a Windows Mixed Reality headset, available for pre-order now as well. We'll be talking about the new look start menu in Windows 10 that's come for Windows Insiders on the dev channel, and why not everybody's got it and what that's going to mean. We'll be talking about Duo, we'll be talking about Garry's electric car stuff, we've got Digital Big Bang, a new event coming up, lots more. So let's get straight to Garry and Richard. Richard and Garry, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
And Garry's virtually sat outside this evening.
Yeah, very virtually.
Yeah. The I did have I have got a Teams backdrop of my office, so it looks like I'm sat in the office. But because I'm spending more time in the office now, I was thinking of getting a home one, so I can have one that looks like I'm at home. So I'll have to get one of those on there. Although I say I do like my TARDIS one, but I haven't got that one on tonight. So, well, welcome to the show. It's been a fairly quiet week, but we have got some new Windows Insider UI features. Well, some people have, so we can talk about that. There's some Duo news, some Windows Mixed Reality news on the headset, so we've got some more details on that, and whatever else pops into our radar as we're talking this week. First of all, I've got to say I did get my new toy, which I talked about last week, which is my
steering wheel.
Yeah. So this is a Logitech G920 with the pedals as well, which are down there, which I've got set up with Project Cars. And it works actually really well with Project Cars. I did try, I think I mentioned last week that I had the wheel for a while, gone back to, I had to give the wheel back and went back to sort of using the Xbox controller. And it's just not the same. It's just, especially with VR, it just doesn't feel like it's the same thing. Once you've got used to the wheel, then you know, it's not the same thing. So I've got the wheel on there, got it set up with Project Cars, and it's great with the VR on it. It really is the best way of enjoying a racing game. So I was doing a bit of practice at the Austrian Grand Prix circuit over the weekend, which I reckon I could have got a podium at that race if they'd let me in. But there you go. I just have to stick with the virtual for now.
So you're using that with the PC. I mean, is that Xbox compatible as well?
Yes, it is. Yeah, this is on. You can see on there. It's got the Xbox button on there. So there's two versions of the wheel. There's I think it's a G29 and a G240 or something like that. And one's for PS4 and PC, and one's for Xbox and PC.
Okay, so would both versions? I mean, if you were to say a PC and a VR headset, either version would work okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the one I used before was the PS4 version. You just plug it into the USB and it detects it and everything else. But I thought, well, in case I decide to use it with the Xbox and I haven't got a PS4, I'll use that. Although there are some differences. I think there's like a rotary controller on the PS4 version, and there isn't on this one. But apart from that, it's pretty much the same. And setting Project Cars up is no problem at all. You just got to make sure you calibrate your pedals and that kind of thing before you start racing, and I've allocated some of the buttons, because that's the only one thing I've found with using the VR is you can't see the buttons on it, so you've got to remember where the buttons are, but you only really need sort of pit in and pause. And the one I found pretty essential is the recenter button, because sometimes you put your headset down, Steam then recalculates where you sat, and so you put your headset back on and it's just in the wrong place, so you've got a single button to there to recenter everything, and it works great. Yeah.
And is there any force feedback on the steering wheel at all? Or just...
Yeah, it's full force feedback. Yeah.
Really? You see. The next question is, how much do they cost you, Ian?
Cost £215 for things.
I'm quite tempted, because I do think the steering wheel would make a big difference in Project Cars 2, definitely.
Oh, it makes a massive difference. I never used to bother, I used to think, oh, well, it's not one of the things I bother with. But once having used one and then gone back, and especially with the VR, it really is makes a massive difference with the pedals and everything. I mean, it's the steering. I think it's a difference between. You can place the car where you want it to place the car. Where with a controller, it's kind of hinting at the direction you want the car to go. I think that's probably the best way of describing it. So, if you really get into it and you want to ride the curbs and you want to really position the car where you want it, where you think it should be as you were driving, then yeah, the wheel is essential, I guess. Really, I've not tried it with the Xbox yet. Maybe I'll try that at some point. I've got a Forza Horizon or something, but it works great for me because it's got nice clamps on the bottom as well. So you see it's got these clamps here. It's got two very solid clamps. So that on this desk here, it's clamped perfectly. And my gaming laptop, which is off over to the side, of course, don't need that. It doesn't matter where that is because it's working with the VR. So it works perfectly. Sit back in the chair with the pedals under my desk here. So yeah, it works great. So
Very cool.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Is that USB 3, USB 2? How or is it just wireless?
It's USB 2. The pedals plug into the control into the steering wheel.
Mm-hmm.
Then it's got its own power supply as well, so you've got to have a plug for that, and then it just plugs into the USB on the laptop. Nice,
that's great.
Yeah, there's you can download some software from Logitech, and for like customization and things like that. But I did install it, but I haven't done anything with it. It just went straight into Project Cars, did the calibration, did the allocation of the buttons, and it's ready to go. I think you can adjust the force feedback as well. There's all different settings. I know that for these sort of hardcore sim races, they really do have it as a lot of feedback. I think the mode I've got in is information mode. I think it's classed as, so you can feel the cars going and you can feel the curbs and everything, but doesn't try and rip you the hand out the wheel. But I think you can actually go really hardcore with it and get it to really push back on you, which I know some of the sim races like doing. But yeah, for me, it just works great. There is an option.
Sorry, Sean.
I said there's an optional manual gear shifter as well, but I didn't bother with that because
that one does.
Yeah,
who uses gears these days?
Yeah, exactly.
Strange thing.
It's got the paddle shifts on there. That's all you really need. So, yeah. So it's good fun though. It is good, and we've tried the multiplayer in the past, and the multiplayer is pretty fun as well. So I'm not into sort of the lobbies and online gaming against other people. I prefer to either play against the bots on my own or just a friend to play against.
That was a lot of fun. I agree, it was a lot of fun. And I mean, will it work outside of? I mean, obviously you're playing Project Cars too. I mean, is there kind of a list of games it works with, or I'm thinking, can you use it against some of the older, maybe emulated arcade races?
I don't see why not. I suppose that's what the software will do to it. So a game like Project Cars understands the concept of wheel and has all the calibration in. So maybe one of the older games, you just emulate the Xbox controller.
Interesting.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess you could. I mean, one thing I found was the brake pedal is, when I first did it without calibrating it, I came to the first corner and just went straight on. And actually the brake pedal requires a serious amount of pressure to get to the full capacity, so you can just calibrate that and put whatever you want as the maximum. So I feel like I was going to break it, but in real world sim you do use you've got a lot of pressure on there, so it gives you an option of having sort of light touch as well. But I've got a bit more easy on that with just with a lighter calibration on it. But yeah, it should theoretically work with anything. And I noticed on the Steam store as well, there's a lot of games on offer at the moment in the summer sale. So I think you could get Project Cars for, I think that was £7 or something like that now, Project Cars 2, which I think when I got it was 20 odd quid. And there's the other one which I fancy was Dirt Rally, or Dirt 2 I think it is, which is a quite a good game. But I like circuit racing, so I think that's the best one. But so Project Cars is good. But there's Andrea Corsa, I think it's called Andrea Corsa 2, and there's a whole range to play with.
And of course you could just leave it plugged into your PC and just download Forza Horizon 4 with an Xbox membership.
Yes, you could do that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Because the only thing with Forza is not VR, but yeah, I think a wheel is the VR makes it sort of really immersive, but I think the wheel probably adds, if you had to choose between one or the other, probably the wheel is probably the first thing you could get. Then VR is the sort of the cherry on the cake on that.
Well, I'm sold. So
yeah, well, it's on offer at the moment. I think it was 295 at one stage, and then as these offers keep coming through, it was 215 when I looked. So I've got it. So the only thing I need now is time to play on it. That's the hardest thing to.
I'll stick to my real world wheels.
It has arrived just as you're going back into the office. That's a shame.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it's probably a good thing. I don't think you could do Teams meetings with VR headset and the wheel going at the same time.
Yeah, that would be challenging. But audio only, maybe.
Yeah. And if you wanted to get a headset to go with it, you can actually pre-order the HP Reverb G2 now.
Yes.
So they've only just announced that this week. £525 on it's you pre-order it through Steam, not through Microsoft Store. So you go through Steam, and then the Steam seems to take you to a country-based reseller. So in this case, for UK, it's systemactive.co.uk, and it's on there at 525, and it's launched on the 15th of September. Which is a good thing that you could actually get one now, which is good, really. It's not cheap though, is it? But I guess it's similar price to the Rift S.
Yeah, I mean it's probably not that bad, because I mean a Rift S costs about, I think, about $399. I think is that right for a Rift S?
Yeah.
It's about £130 more based on that, which is probably not that bad when you consider just how big the jump is in resolution. I mean, it is a really big jump, isn't it? Because you've got these I think they're 2K screens, aren't they, I think?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's that's going to bring you a whole new level of clarity, as long as, of course, you've got a suitable PC to run the thing, because I imagine it's going to need some serious horsepower.
Yeah, it's it's 2160 by 2160 each eye panel with a LCD, which they say is 2.5 times more pixels than the Oculus Rift S. Yeah,
it is a big jump, and unfortunately, it's still got it's got slightly re-engineered controllers for it, which they've never been particularly good. The Windows mixed reality controllers compared to the ones of the Rift, in my opinion, and they're still there. I mean, they're a bit better now, but I think that improvement in display, and hopefully they've learned from the issues they had with the Reverb, and because I think it's the same basic screens as the Reverb, the same resolution, but the Reverb felt perhaps more like a first stab, maybe almost like a prototype, perhaps a bit like HoloLens 1, whereas this feels much more, consumerized and usable. Yeah. Although I do know they are plugging it quite hard for industry as well, industry and training.
Yeah, I think so. And of course, you don't need any lighthouses or anything else. That's your complete kit.
Yeah, but I think it's the same for the Rift S, isn't it? That they've
also, yeah, of course, that's got inside-out tracking. Yeah.
It's only my very old Rift here that I've still got the two things sitting on my desk, staring at me, saying you need to buy a new headset or play more on your Quest.
Yeah, that's it. But it's nice to have a headset available, and I think the Steam link is interesting. I think pushing it through Steam and promoting it through Steam and selling it almost through Steam is a good way of attracting gamers' attention, because it seems to be Steam's where it is at for that.
Yeah, and there've also been some very interesting looking mods made for games too. Like I don't know if you've seen the Grand Theft Auto 5 mods where they're playing those through VR headsets. I mean, I've yet to try and make it work, but it does look very impressive.
Yeah, I've not tried any of those. The only one I tried was, in terms of mods, was a virtual reality mod for the original Doom.
Oh, great.
Yeah, so it actually is quite fun because all the sprites, I suppose they are sprites. They're all in 2D, like cardboard cutouts, but it's in 3D. So you've got these creatures coming at you that are almost like cardboard cutout creatures coming out, but they can turn and they sort of turn on the angle. So it looks really weird. It's like you're in a virtualized version of Doom. It's very weird to describe, really, but it's quite fun. I mean, you've still got the inherent gameplay, but Yeah, they are. Once you get a good immersive game like that, VR really is good for stuff like that. I mean, I like that some of those ones I played, Compound and some of the zombie games and things like that. But for me, I think the driving game is probably the best experience with VR. I guess flight sims would be good as well.
Yes, indeed. I mean, I've got a very good friend who plays a lot of flight sims, and I know he found the VR experience very, very immersive because it was, to just look around the cockpit. He's got all the yoke and the sticks and things, which he said, using, much like playing a driving game, playing a flight sim game, when you've got your hands on a yoke, proved to be, a very immersive experience. Although he did say that his problem was his PC couldn't get above, I think it was running at 60 hertz, and so he did find it a bit laggy and a bit nauseous. Whereas I gather he's used that as an excuse to buy a much more powerful rig to
this is this problem.
Exactly.
Because I was doing some practice races and it kind of stuttered at one stage and chucked me off right into the gravel. Because the screen's trying to redraw and you've no idea where you are and you've no control over it, and there's no sort of rewind function like there is on say Forza Motorsport. So you've lost that, you're out, which is a bit frustrating. So then I said, I need to get a better gaming PC, but then it's like it's never-ending cycle of upgrades, then, isn't it?
Exactly. Yes, I mean, I must admit, I'm in the process of building a shed at the end of my garden where I think I'm going to be banished with my various bits and pieces of toys and electronic gear. That might be the tipping point to get myself a more powerful PC to do so. Because I find Project Cars 2, it works, but I'm aware of the fact it's working my PC very, very hard.
Yeah, that's it. And I think my graphic, it's a little bit blurry, and it could be a lot sharper. So if I got a better PC, but it's just one of those things, isn't it? You can always build a better PC, especially
exactly.
Game.
Imagine your steering wheel, a PC, a sort of top end PC, and that Reverb Project Cars 2 would never see you again, would we?
No, you wouldn't. Can't do the show tonight. Busy.
Yeah.
Which is why I've not gone down that of buying myself a super PC or anything. That's why I got the gaming laptop, was because I if I was 20 and dedicated to playing some gaming, then yeah, maybe. But life gets in the way of stuff like that. So a gaming laptop is quite a good compromise. But then I see my son's a fantastic tower that he built, and that's just, he whacks everything on full on that one, which he does like reminded me of as well. Yeah, it's a good fun. So that's my when it's raining, that's me at the weekends, and it's a great, especially for following the Formula One, knowing that they were on it at the Austrian Grand Prix, and to do a few laps over the weekend, it just really give you a better understanding of the track and everything. So it's a very fun experience. If even just using it with a gaming laptop and your steering wheel, you can have some good fun with it.
You're cool.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah. So what else have we got to talk about this week? Oh yes, we did get a new build of Windows 10. Now, do you remember when the channels were launched instead of the rings? Microsoft said that they weren't going to do this thing of where they would only send some updates out to some users, and some other users wouldn't get the updates.
Well,
when was that?
Well, they're still doing that, Ian. It's just some insiders are more equal than others. So all insiders will get these eventually. That's what's going to happen. The things we're going to talk about. They aren't doing the A/B testing at all. They have said that everyone will get these eventually, which is completely different to what they were doing before. Oh dear. I mean, I can understand why they want to limit test groups, but for something like this, I don't understand why the dev channel would get a new feature that only a very small set. And looking at the number of people I've seen talking about it, it seems to be a very small set of people that they've rolled this out to. You refer to the start menu or the...
Yeah, so what I'm referring to there, yeah. So Microsoft released build 20161 last week, and one of the first things that they call out on the blog post is the new start menu, and it looks very much like the screenshots that we've seen teasers of over the last few months, really, with this new looking start menu where they've replaced the solid background colours on many of the tiles.
Yeah, that's right. It's kind of more theme aware now. So it feels like almost the sort of the last dying death rattles of the Windows 8 design language, because where icons and things had big, thick, blocky colours behind them, now they're going for a much more soothing, transparent effect, and it fits in better with the themes. I think it looks a lot better. I think people who miss Windows 7 will probably quite like it as well, although it's not quite the same as Windows 7 start menu yet. I think that would be a step too far, really, to have to put folders in there. But yes, it's the refresh start menu, which we've seen in so many teaser videos now. And I think, is this similar to what they accidentally leaked a while ago as well?
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah,
it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So
there we go.
Yeah.
See, I mean, yeah. This looks fine on the desktop. I just think it's kind of one more step away from that really nice Windows 8 tablet design. Because I still think Windows 8, the design language for tablets, was really good. I really do think that was good.
Yeah.
And obviously we've joked about how Apple seem to be adopting more of those cues and things in iOS and what have you. But obviously with it didn't work so well for desktop, and I think we're seeing here the desktop stepping further back. So one thing they did say was, oh, look at all the wonderful fluent icons and things. Of course, the problem is for the vast majority of people, you've got a whole mismatch now. So you've got fluent icons, you've got Windows 8 style icons, you've got Windows 7 icons, and even some that date back to Windows XP. So it's a bit of a mismatch. If I'm honest, it does look a bit of a mess. But yeah, I've got the new start menu on all my devices, so it turned up on all of them. Obviously, I'm one of the favoured few then.
Oh,
yeah, it must be. Yeah.
I haven't got it on any of my devices.
Yeah, it turned up. So otherwise, I would have moaned a lot louder, I suspect. Yes, it turned up on all of them. I don't know about you, Ian. Have you found it a bit slow compared to?
Yes, I've found that it's a bit. I've only got it on 2 machines. It took me a bit of fiddling around to get it to work, and on this Surface Go here, what I found is, and probably I was going to show it on the screen, but it's a bit hard to balance it. It's a little bit unresponsive when you hit the start menu.
Yeah, I'm finding that.
That's what I mean by slow. So so sometimes you hit the start menu and it's a little bit slow to come up. I didn't find that too much on the VM, but on this machine, I hit the start key, and there you go. It's come up straight away there. So it's not always the case, but sometimes I just found it a little bit on the slow side. But
to be fair, I almost never use the start menu. I just use Power Toys Run for most things anyway. So
yeah, I think it looks a lot better.
I'd agree.
Yeah, I noticed on the VM that it doesn't have that transparency that it's got on the Surface when I do it on the Surface Go. So the first it removes all that solid background, but it puts a bit of transparency in there as well, which looks quite nice. But on the VM, I guess it's to do with the resolution on the because it's using remote desktop effectively, isn't it, to virtualize it in Hyper-V? But so it looks better on the Surface Go than it does on the Hyper-V. But I think it looks pretty nice, and I think first of all, it gets rid of the solid colours and has a sort of a nice uniform look, and I think that looks better it's particularly the all apps list looks better. The tiles doesn't make it looks better, but I think when you see the all apps list, that's sort of A to Z list on the left, that looks a lot better, a lot cleaner.
Yes, it does, definitely. I'd agree, although I do find it is showing up just how inconsistent the icons are.
Yeah, there is some work to be done on that, and some icons like Netflix or I think Netflix or Spotify kind of take over anyway. You don't get a choice on those. Some looked a bit weird, like the old Edge icon is just black now, or not, the actual icon itself. And some, obviously, like the new stuff like
black in morning.
Yeah, that's right. But a lot of stuff like the Office ones look pretty good on there. I also find that if you put it into dark mode, you can get it to choose your accent color as well. So it kind of gets a sort of a hue to the start menu as well, which looks quite good as well. But I prefer light mode. But I think it looks good. I think it's one of those things that does make it look a little bit more modern. I don't know why, but that's always a thing with UI design, isn't it? You get a UI, then that becomes a slightly changed language for it, which looks modern, and that eventually becomes stale and gets replaced by something else. I mean, I remember when flat icons were a thing in IE4. Was it IE4 they introduced? Or IE3, wasn't it? They replaced the old style buttons, and that looked modern for a while. And then, each UI paradigm, I'm sure, Gary, this is something that's I don't know if it's a good or a bad thing for an app.
It's horrible for developers, really, because I mean, obviously, once the main OS gets modernized in whatever way that happens to be, and then people start thinking that's the modern approach, then all apps have to change, and that's can be a major job, especially apps. Quite often, it's a problem for apps you developed 10 years ago for a client who you've got no longer communication with. They end up with an app which looks not as good as it should do, but your name might be on that, and you're getting the support calls which say, "Can you change that?" And you said, "Well, not really, because it's not our app, really." So yeah, it's a pain, but equally, I think keeping things fresh is a good idea.
Yeah, it gives you an opportunity sometimes to freshen the look up of the
app.
And
to be honest, it can be a money earner as well. So I'm never going to object too much to it.
Yeah, but I think overall it looks nice and clean, and it's one of those things that it's probably been in the OS for a while, and they're just switching it now for external testers. But I'd be interested to see whether this is a feature that makes it into 20H2 or is one that gets carried over into 21H1. Because despite it's probably only been a fairly minor change, it's compared to something like the Linux subsystem for Windows 2, it's something that everybody sees straight away and makes a huge difference. So it's a bit where it's probably maybe not the same plumbing work that was involved in doing a big feature like that, like Linux. It is a consumer-facing feature, isn't it? That would make it a highlight on an upgrade.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't hold my breath for seeing it in 20H2. I suspect that's getting relatively locked down though anyway. This is brand new, so I suspect we'll see it in 21H1.
Yeah. And it's a feature, isn't it? That sometimes people complain that some of these big updates aren't that big anymore, and I'm supposed to have a refresh UI is something that they can all new Windows 10.
I mean, the thing is, we're calling it a refresh UI. It isn't. It's just a start menu. I mean, This is one of the things that I find enraging about Microsoft compared to, say, Apple. They have made, they've done some tweaks to start menu, and they look good. I mean, I'm happy with how it looks, but it would be good if they could just make the whole UI Windows 10 consistent. I mean, I think in this release there may even be a bit where they said, "Hey, this is great. You can now do this thing in the new control panel or the other settings screen instead of falling into the old control panel, which is like dropping into Windows 7 land." You think, I wish they could move the whole OS onto the new standard rather than just do bits and pieces, because then you end up with bits and pieces being left behind maybe several generations. It's kind of that, sort of I'm looking for. It's having the self-control to make sure you do everything in one go and just and not do the start menu, but then don't do other bits. You should do the whole lot in one go. Make sure it's all got a consistent design language throughout.
Yeah, and I suppose it makes a bit more of a big bang then as well when you do release it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there were some other bits and pieces in this inside the build, which I thought were quite fun. I did quite like the Alt Tab stuff, which were now Alt Tab through tabs in the in the Canary or Dev build of Edge, which is quite cool. Of course, they were very quick to say you can limit how many tabs it does, because obviously if you're a tab hound, about 20 or 30 open tabs at once, which a lot of people are, that could cause all kinds of things to happen. So yes, you can limit that to how many it does.
And that was a feature that didn't turn up on mine. It still hasn't.
Really?
No, I've got that one.
I've got that. I've got them all. Bingo! There we go.
Yeah. Did you see? And the other one I did quite like as well, which is the notification, the new notification window. I thought was with the icon in there. It looks better. It looks a bit more cluttered because you get the icon and the application name in there, but it does give you at least a visual indication of where the notification came from.
I mean, that's actually weird, because I thought it already worked like that, so I had to look back to an old machine and thought, oh no, it didn't do that before. And you're right, it does make a lot more sense now.
It used to. I'm sure it used to.
Well, exactly. I mean, I was sure it'd been in there, but I must be mistaken. Because I did go back and well, actually, if only there was somebody who'd done every single version of Windows.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Go back through the videos and find out. Yeah.
Yeah. Go watch the videos, Richard. The other thing they mentioned on this as well, which again I've tested and not really seen, is the personalized taskbar for when you get a new user or when you set the machine up for the first time, which they said was dependent on potentially how you've linked your account.
Yeah.
So this is the icons at the bottom. You know, you get Edge and Explorer and Mail app or whatever. And I think they were saying if you've got your phone linked to your account, you might see the your phone icon, or you might see the Xbox icon if you're on a gaming PC.
That's right. I mean, again, I've not played that because it only applies, I think, when you start up. You know, when you, as you say, when you start up with a new account. So, yeah, I mean that makes a lot of sense because the taskbar can be a bit daunting. I think it's quite a minor thing. I think they were saying they're going to use machine learning to kind of learn how users use this and see what people put on their taskbar and then try to adapt it so it works in the way people like, which might worry some people who are concerned about the fact that Microsoft does watch what you're doing with Windows all the time and you can't turn it off. That might concern some people, but I think it's fairly minor, really. Yeah,
I did try this by doing I did a reset this PC, you know, to reset it to see what it would do, and then it just looked the same as normal. So I then created another user and tried that, and that looked the same normal. So I'm not quite sure what they're doing on that yet.
Oh well, never mind.
But yes, it does make sense.
But this does come back to, again, our complaint that having promised us there would be no more A/B start testing, there appears to be A/B start testing again.
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen a lot of people moaning on Twitter to the Windows Insider account, so they probably feel that. So they're at least seeing some of the frustration for some people.
Well, they shouldn't have said. I mean, that they should not have said we're not going to we're not going to do this thing anymore, and then within weeks say actually we are. It's just it's not a good way to treat the team.
Yeah. Some of the things in the build as well, they've added some more. What you mentioned before, they've added some more things to settings. So mainly, so you've got your PC spec now, your PC details, so you don't have to go to control panel. Still not everything in there though.
Well, exactly.
I think.
I find myself having to drop through into the control panel or into one of the various network settings to get at stuff, and you do feel as though you're stepping back in time when you do that.
Yeah, the one thing that they did put it back in that actually I did get was the tablet experience that was in the May update, the postures as they called it. We talked about this a while ago. Yeah. So it moves the icons around slightly as you go into the sort of tablet mode, which not a huge change, but at least they've put that back in. There's quite a few fixes in it as well. I won't go through them now, but there's quite a few. But there's still some known issues, especially with the hypervisor and the zero CPU bug in Task Manager. Although I don't think I've seen that on my Surface, but I've seen quite a few people having that issue. Yeah,
I don't think I think I'm okay on that one too. I checked one recently. Yeah, it's all fine. So, but again, we have to accept this is preview stuff, isn't it? So there should be issues. And of course, with this dev channel build, is that right? Yes, we're going to fast with dev channel. With this dev channel build, whatever we're looking at here, there's no guarantee any of this is going to ever make it into production build anyway.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they could just decide that there's too many, it causes too many performance issues, this new start menu or whatever, and they just turn the feature off in the next build and we won't see it again. A bit like sets, but hopefully it'll stick around and it gets for a few more people to test it, and then it'll be nice to see that in an update next year.
Definitely.
20H1, 21H1. Right, what else have we got? So that was the new build. They seem to be on a weekly cadence again now, so like some new features was nice to see. I wonder what other hidden UI things they've got in there as well that they can switch on. I know there's a new volume user dialog box similar to the Windows 10X one that they've done. So maybe we'll see that at some point in the future.
I do hope so.
A couple of the things I didn't have a post on this one, but I've just seen today that Microsoft has bought the development company that they outsourced some of the Surface Duo work to. I don't know if you've seen this story.
Yes, this is I can't pronounce it. Mobile.
Movial. Is that how I told you it was pronounced when I met some of the guys? Yes.
Yeah, I mean, basically, it appears to be. I mean, Gary, I'm sure this is more for you, but as I understand it, they basically bought the bits of Mobile or whatever. Those employees that were actually sort of working on the Surface Duo are now going to be Microsoft employees, but they haven't actually bought Mobile, have they? They're just hiring in the brand.
So they're basically, I think what they've done is they bought the Bellevue US operation. So because Mobile's is Finnish, so I think they did some of the stuff for Selfish. You remember that OS? So yeah, I mean, really clever guys when it comes to embedded systems and knowledge of Android stuff. So I can totally see why they want to do this. It makes more sense.
Another Finnish mobile phone.
Yeah, they did some time ago, didn't they?
That didn't go well.
I don't think so.
Yeah, that didn't go quite so well, but. Yeah,
so
I think this is a good purchase for them. I think it brings it in, it gives them control over it, and avoid shifting priorities on that team.
And I guess that this is perhaps another sign that the development is relatively complete now for that, as they're moving to the next day. There's sort of rumours that they're working on the Duo 2, which I'm not surprised if that is the case, because it's there's long lead times on devices like this. So
yeah.
I wonder if we're going to see a July, August, maybe an August release date, and some pre-orders coming up beginning of August.
I mean, it could be August. Yeah. I mean, there's I think Inspire's coming up soon, isn't it? In July, so that would make a certain amount of sense. I mean, if the rumoured specs, which I'm not going to go into, are anywhere close to reality, then they need to get their phone out quickly, because it looks quite underpowered compared to what else is out there. Especially if it's going to be priced at a premium level. And I know we've put our little bets on our thoughts about how much this is going to cost.
Yes, we have, yeah.
So if it is priced premium, it doesn't look like a particularly high spec device at the moment, but we'll see.
Yeah.
No. And I'm trying to keep my Pixel going, but it's now the camera doesn't work anymore. But it's not a hardware fault; it's a software fault, and it looks like it's not just mine. I've seen quite a few when you do a search for it. So the camera app opens and then crashes. But then every 1 in 10 times you try it, it'll work for 10 seconds. But I've tried all the usual stuff of clearing the cache and even putting the phone in safe mode and stuff like that. But it just doesn't want to play. But and I thought, oh, that's fair enough, because I don't really take a huge amount of pictures. But then I kind of realised, oh yeah, I do actually, because I was looking at this steering wheel. I thought, oh, I'll put a picture on Twitter, and of course, I can't, so I've got to use another device. But I don't want to factory reset the phone.
You'd think Google would get Pixel right, wouldn't you?
Yeah, you would think so.
I mean, the question is, does Google care so much anymore now? About I mean, Pixel's not a very big chunk of the market, is it really, hardware-wise? It's no longer the premium hardware, because I mean when the first when the Nexus phones came out, they were great, because they were like a real example of here's how you should make a phone. They were great. Whereas the Pixel phones, I don't know, I'm not quite sure that Google is that bothered anymore about them, which I know sounds. Yeah,
I think they certainly haven't sold as well as they were hoping, I don't think. And I always thought that the Nexus was the high point for that line of Google's own phones. The last Nexus I had which was 6P or something like that, because they undercut other people. They were cheaper than the Samsungs and others. They were all the features you need and a clean UI. At that time, when Samsung was loading their UI up with all sorts of rubbish, whereas I think now Samsung have got that clear premium feel to their flagship devices. The Pixels are the same or similar price, and the Samsung's UI isn't that bad either. So it's actually pretty good. So maybe the Pixel's lost its place in the market. It used to be great for developers or for enthusiasts and a bit cheaper and, you know, a clean experience. But now the Pixel is a premium device, and it seems, I don't know anybody that's bought a Pixel, but I know a lot of people have bought S20s. So
well, it could be worse. It could be an iPhone. Because I in the last few weeks I have grown to loathe my iPhone XS even more than I did before, because you know what, Face ID does not work with masks. I'm just going to put that there now. Since I've had the iPad, which is a very old model with a Touch ID, that works. I've realised just how bad the iPhone is. Because like the iPad, I pick it up, it unlocks, it's great. The phone, no. Who is this person looking at me here? So it's just very, very irritating.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see if Apple might, in light of what's been happening in the world, I'm wondering if we will see the return of some form of touch unlock on some Apple devices, because I can't see it going away anytime soon on the Android devices.
No, I really like that's the one thing I do like about the Pixel. The fingerprint readers on the back, it works great. I know the Samsungs have got one as well, haven't they? But I think is theirs on the side or the front or something like that?
It depends which model. Some have got it on the side.
Yeah, I've got a XS, and I think that's on the side, and basically it's sort of like it's kind of over the power button, and that works really well.
Yeah, no, I've got the one on the front, and I'm not so keen on that. I think that works about 10% of the time.
Is that the one under glass?
Under the glass, yeah.
Oh yeah.
So it's not brilliant, I don't have to say. But I found other ways of unlocking. So I use my watch as an unlock mechanism, so that's not so much of a problem.
Yeah, I think on the back seems to be a good place anyway, or the power button or whatever, where you just hold it where it's natural. I think that seems to be a good. But yeah, you're right. A lot of people, a lot of companies were looking at the facial unlock, but times have changed, and that's not as practical. Especially if you're in a small shop trying to pay with your face mask on, you've no chance of it.
No, it's
so that
I've come unstuck quite a few times because of the, and I've seen people. I don't become unstuck because the thing is at the moment you have to use contactless to pay, obviously, which makes perfect sense. The problem is you can't unlock the phone to do contactless without Face ID, and you can't do Face ID because it doesn't recognise you because you've got a mask on. And you see the cascade of issues there, which is just it's quite annoying. So
yeah,
I've got very good at putting my PIN number in. Let's put it that way. Step back 15 years. Oh, PIN number time. There we go, and we're in.
Yeah. Well, that's when I was trying to take some pictures at the weekend. I thought, what could I do pictures? I was going to use my Surface, but I thought I'll use my old iPad. And that's got just a pin. There's no. I thought, it's a bit weird, this pin thing, because I use Windows Hello on the Surface, on my Surfaces. So I'm not used to doing that, but yeah, it works. It works fine for that. But yeah, I think fingerprint reading could actually become an important feature once again. But I would imagine that the lead time on doing stuff like that is too much for us to respond to the next device. You're probably looking at the next but one, or even the one after that. Yeah,
I guess so. I mean, and to be fair to Apple, I find the Windows Hello to be equally as awful as well. Although, of course, I don't tend to carry around my Windows laptop around with me in queues and things. So it's, Windows phone, who knows?
I have to say, the one on this Spectre, which has got the 3D imaging on it works really well, and actually does recognise me with the mask on.
Really?
So I'm quite impressed by that. So So I think that's. I mean, this is. I only have to sort of appear in front of it, and it unlocks really quickly as well. So I'm really impressed with that.
I noticed the Windows Hello works with the HoloLens on. It unlocks it with the HoloLens. It seems to figure that out.
I think HoloLens 2. I mean, HoloLens 2 obviously introduces, I think, retina scans, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because I know that's one thing that's got industry quite excited about HoloLens 2, in that you don't need to have like a virtual keyboard or things to unlock it. It will now just scan your eye.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's for the phones then.
Yep. Even scarier.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, what else did we have? Oh, Gary, you had some info on an event coming up next week that you wanted to talk about.
Yeah. So this is the Big Bang event. So I actually helped organise this a few years back. This is a STEM event, a science engineering event for kids aged 11 plus. And adults as well, and it's like basically an on stage presentation, normally of lots of science experiments and things. It's really good, very interesting to watch. Obviously this year they can't do it on stage, but they'll do it on stage, but they can't do it with an audience, so they're going to do a virtual one. And normally this costs money to attend to, but the virtual one's going to be free. It's next Tuesday, 14th of July. And it's just basically sign up for it and get on it, and it sounds really interesting because they're basically looking at what the contribution of scientists and engineers, healthcare people and technicians has been in the response to COVID-19 from a young person's point of view, to see how that is. And they've also got some environmental talks, so they've got David Attenborough on it. There's a session where you can learn about what a vaccine is and how it works, and immunity and all that sort of stuff as well. So yeah, I think it's going to be quite an interesting experience. So that's basically the digital www, the digital, actually not the, just digitalbigbang.co.uk, and online for young people 11 plus, and basically sign up and it's free.
Oh, that sounds good. I'll include a link for that in the show note, and it could also do some politicians probably some good to understand about how herd immunity works and things like that. It could teach quite a few of them, I suspect. I think that's part of the problem, is that they don't watch stuff like that.
No.
Yeah, I think that's great when there's stuff like that. That's the one benefit of this we talked about with the MVP Summit and Build and everything else. It has meant that some of these in-person events that were always really good, but they have been a much broader appeal or a broader accessibility for people now. Yeah. Which is good to see. Now, there's one other thing that I know you wanted to mention, Gary, this week, which affects us for Windows Insider MVPs.
Yes, so someone's been working tirelessly behind the scenes for us Windows Insider MVPs for a good few years now. Who's organised all our talks and everything. We get all the summits and things, and done worked miracles in terms of getting us access to some of the product information. Joe Camp, is moving on from the Windows Insider MVP. He's staying with Microsoft. He's gone off to Power Apps. He's actually followed Donna to Power Apps and that sort of stuff. But so I'm sure we'll hear from him again. But I just really wanted to say a big thank you to Joe, because I think without him we would not have got some of the really interesting stuff we've learned over the years.
Yeah, we had some good interviews that Joe has been in the back helping out, organising and sorting out for us. So we had some good exclusives back when the Groove team were doing stuff, and it was all thanks to Joe in the background pushing the people to work with us. So yeah, we'll miss Joe on our team. So it's good luck with these exploits at Power Apps. Yep, indeed. I'm sure we'll hear from them again. Yeah. And we've kind of related to that, you and I were both due for sort of re-evaluation of our MVP status in July, and that's been extended through the way that they're changing the calendar more than anything. But anyway, good news is we get to remain Windows Insider MVPs for at least another 6 months. Indeed. Because they have a renewal period, and I think they're just rejigging their calendars. But anyway, that's good for us because we can continue to get some inside information where we can, and then pass it on when we're allowed to.
I'm not an MVP. I can't imagine why.
Nor can I, Richard.
No. Well, I think they've forgotten some of your incidents from previous years now. I think you're back in favour, aren't you?
I'm going to say nothing.
Say nothing. Yes. Yeah, I think that's probably a wise move. I'll tell you what else I've been trying this week. I haven't done anything with dash cams before, and I got sent a ThinkWare dash cam to try, and actually I was pretty impressed with it. I've got a full review to do, and it took me a while to actually fit it in the car because you've got to run some cables because there's a front and rear camera. But it was the Pro one that I got, and I've been quite impressed with that. I've been playing with that this week, and it's got a little thing that sort of behind the rear view mirror, so it's not sort of blocking vision. It's got a little SD card on it, but it's got its own Wi-Fi hotspot and GPS and everything else on it, and you get some really good data out of that. You can get your G ratings, which I'm trying my hardest to push as hard as I can. No, you get the G ratings, you get instant recording, but it's got continuous recording as well. It comes with a 32 gig micro. What's the word? Not SSD. What's the micro SD card?
Yes, card. Well, yeah.
So micro SD card that it records to, but it's got front and rear cameras, and you say it's got its own. It turns into a hotspot as well, so you can view it through your phone, or you can just put the SD card in a PC, and it's got its own application that you can view the recordings, and it does things like. It retains, if it's an incident, it retains that for you, or you can have it set so that it doesn't record unless there is an incident, and then because it's constantly recording, it retains the 20 seconds before an incident and that kind of thing. First time I've played with any of the dash cams, but actually quite impressed with the functionality. It's just a bit fiddly fitting it in the car and everything, but once it's in, it's quite good. Another thing I think now is once you get them in, is the common practice now you take them out when you park up somewhere, because is it something else to get nicked, or is it just one of those things you just kind of live with now, as people don't bother with them?
I think most people live in now. I think the only time that becomes a potential issue if you cross the border from Germany into Austria with a band.
Was it? Is that right? Yeah.
Yes, you can get arrested for fined for having a dash cam in your car in Austria. But yeah, so Austria and Portugal, I think, 2 places do that. That's the one which is 2K, isn't it? I mean, images, and it's got good night vision. Because the thing I thought was really novel on that was its geofencing option.
Yeah.
Where you can basically use the GPS on there to sort of alert you if your car goes out of a certain geofence.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, which I haven't enabled because there's only me that really drives it, and my car has got the geolocation in it anyway.
Yeah.
But I think it'd be pretty good especially if you could put it in one of your 18-year-old son's cars, which is something I'm going to have to be facing up to at some point in the future. And you could set it up for something like that, especially if you've got it on there, and all these insurance clause now about when young people can take cars out to get them insured. But it's got that in it. It's got collision detection, lane detection, and even it detects if you can have it set so if the car in front of you starts to drive off from traffic lights and you don't respond, it alerts you and that kind of thing. And it's got safety camera alerts as well.
Yeah,
it pings you on when one of them's coming up, which is pretty accurate when I was testing it. I haven't tested it at night yet, so maybe at the weekend I'll go out in the evening and give that a try. But,
that's what they always talk about on that particular camera is its night vision is really good. And also it avoids the overexposure you sometimes get on cameras with the headlights.
So I'll have to give that a try. But actually, I found it pretty good, and the software seems fairly reasonable. It's easy to use. It's got quite a lot of things in it when you start delving into it. But to actually just essentially plug it in, and it just starts recording and it's ready to go. Then it's quite a nice device. So I need to do full write on it. Just need a bit more time to play about with that. Right, well, I think that's just about everything we've got for this week. Richard, have you got anything else that you want to talk about?
No, that's it for me.
Excellent. Well, I'm going to go and put my headset on now and tell the rest of the family that it took me 2 hours to record the podcast.
I'll let you start.
Garry and Richard just wouldn't stop talking.
No, that's very true. You wouldn't.
So, Richard, where can we find you?
Mostly on Twitter @Richard_Speed.
Excellent. And Garry, where can we find you?
@Garry with 2 R's WMA on Twitter, and on youtube.com/iPaceowner with loads of interviews which I'm putting together in long form to hopefully give you a nice shorter form for the podcast at some point.
Excellent. Yeah, we'll drop that in, and you can go out in you can go out in the real world now in your car. I'll go put the virtual headset, and you go and get your car charged up
for free. Local charges
for free.
At the moment, so that's pretty cool.
Right, well, we'll be back same time, same place next week. You can email me in at digitallife.com, @iSticks on Twitter, and we'll see you next week.
Take care.
Cheerio.
Thanks to Garry and Richard. We'll be back same time, same place next week. Email me in at digitallife.com, @iSticks on Twitter. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching.